Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. Welcome to everybody. We're here to talk about direct deposit in Church Windows Payroll in our new version 26.24.1. Okay. This is the version that now paying contractors, not just employees, but contractors in payroll is now available in 26.24.1. Okay, so that's really the kind of the reason why we've decided to do this event today. But we're going to kind of we're going to kind of talk about direct deposit in general today, setting it up, paying folks with it, but with an emphasis on contractors. All right, so the first thing, and this is really, really important, while you can produce 1099s for contractors paid through accounting or in payroll, the direct deposit feature for contractors is only available through Church Windows Payroll, okay? There is no direct deposit function for contractors or payees that are paid through accounting. So if you own Church Windows Payroll and accounting, and you are currently paying vendors or contractors through accounting, and you want to set them up for direct deposit, you will have to stop using that record in the chart of accounts in accounting, and then you'll have to set them up in payroll as a contractor there in payroll, okay? Really, really important distinction, okay? That's really, really important. I don't want anyone here to be under the impression that you can pay contractors through accounting using direct deposit, only contractors set up through payroll, okay? So again, when we go into payroll, you would go into employees contractors, you'd click add employee contractor here, choose independent contractor, okay? And then add those folks there that you're going to be wanting, or those companies or individuals there who you're going to want to be paying through direct deposit through payroll, okay? Then in accounting, I went into the chart of accounts for a reason. I knew there was. But basically, you want to go into manage accounts. You'd want to find the particular vendor in question that you were no longer using. So let's say here, let's see here, I've got Don Brenner right here. He's an individual that I've been paying. I want to set him up for direct deposit. Once I've added his record in payroll as a contractor, I would simply come in here into accounting and put a check mark in the inactive box right there on the detail tab right here. See that? Everybody should see that checkbox labeled inactive right there. Okay? So I want to make sure that that record isn't set up and active in accounting for me, that I could possibly post something to by mistake. Now, I certainly can post or I can't post to it if it's inactive, but if I needed to pay Don something through accounting, I could certainly reactivate it if I wish. But if I'm setting them up in payroll, I don't want to get confused by duplicate records, so I'm going to inactivate my accounting record and go and set him up in payroll, okay? So just want to make sure that we're clear about that in, kind of further emphasizing that direct deposit for contractors is only available through payroll, not through accounting, okay? All right, so let's close out of accounting and let's jump back into payroll. All right, let's review a few direct deposit basics, all right? So if some of you are already using direct deposit, the direct deposit function to pay your employees in payroll, nothing's going to change really per se that much, okay? It's very similar to the function for employees as it is for contractors. So it's going to be pretty straightforward for you, if you're currently using the direct deposit function. But the first thing that is, for those of you that are not familiar with the direct deposit function, whether it's for employees or for contractors at this point, one of the first things that it's important to understand is that nothing communicates directly between Church Windows, payroll, and your bank, okay? Church Windows doesn't magically just send some information out through the internet, interwebs, out to the bank and pays those employees or contractors for you, okay? Church Windows Payroll creates what's called a NACHA or NACHA compliant file. Okay, it's like a banking standard, okay? But it creates that file that you then save from Church Windows Payroll, and then you get that file to the bank to pay your employees / contractors on the selected pay date, okay? Nothing communicates between the software and online to the bank directly, all right? So that's really one of the most important things. Is a lot of folks go, oh, well, Church Windows must take care of sending all that information out to my bank to communicate that, to pay those folks electronically. Not true. Church Windows does nothing other than create the NACHA compliant file that then gets sent to the bank or uploaded to them or walked in, on a flash drive or something, okay? When considering direct deposit to pay either employees or contractors, the very first thing you should do is contact your bank, okay, that you're going to be using to pay those folks. Doesn't matter whether it's employees or contractors, okay? There are questions you have to ask the bank, okay? The bank's the other, it's like a handshake, right? Church Windows is one end, one hand on it, the bank is on the other, and so there's information that you've got to find out if the bank can support this, essentially, okay? Does the bank have or offer and have an option to import the file that includes the pay employees or contractors to pay them electronically, okay? I'd say, I wish I could, if I were to make it a reasonably intelligent guess, I would say probably 70% of the users that I work with, their banks do import this, and 20 or 30% don't, So some financial institutions do not have an import function that allows you to upload the file to them or get a file to them and import it to pay employees electronically, okay? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is when you speak with somebody at the bank, you want to let them know that you have or already own NACHA compliant software. Don't let them talk you into buying something you don't need. Okay? I heard lots of things on support calls where they called somebody at the bank and the person wasn't quite sure what they were asking, and basically the bank was trying to sell them a bunch of stuff that they didn't really need. Okay? The first question you have is, do they support importing a NACHA compliant file to pay employees and contractors electronically? If not, then you're not going to be able to use the file that Church Windows Payroll generates, whether it's for employees or contractors at all. And you'll have to look at other options for paying those folks, okay? A common workaround is to set up a bill pay at the bank, calculate the payroll for your contractors or employees to generate the net pay amounts, then go online to the bill pay process and pay those folks with those amounts, and then print a stub or what have you from payroll and send it to them, okay? So the very first thing is asking if the bank will permit this to occur, okay? If they don't, then basically anything below what we're talking about right here is really kind of irrelevant, okay? But if we're assuming it does, the bank does do that, okay, because, that's the point, really, is to use the file that our software produces. Then the next question you want to ask is, if they do import this type of file, is there a charge or a cost that is associated with it? Some banks there is, some banks it's not, okay? So, and if so, how much is it? Is it, 10 cents a transaction? Is it a quarter? Is it $1? Or is there no charge at all? Okay. Also, assuming they do, or if they say that they do permit that type of file, how much lead time in advance of the pay date do you need to get them the file or upload that? Okay. A typical time frame is 3 days, business days. But I've seen institutions where it could be as little as 2 and sometimes as much as 4 or 5 in advance of the pay date, okay? But 3 days is about typical. But ask them. Don't speculate. Okay? You can't, okay? Finally, no, there's one more after this. So in addition to that, how does the bank want you to get the file to them, okay? Do you upload it through a link? Like could you log onto your account at the bank and then there's a portal that they give you that you upload the file, click here to, browse and link a file. Do they want you to attach it to an email and send it to them? Do they want you to physically walk it in on like a flash drive or a thumb drive or something? Okay. So again, another question to ask, how to transmit the file to them. All right. Finally, this is the final thing on this now for the setup on this. And typically there may be other questions that come up, but don't be afraid of asking them questions. Is assuming, or if they can't import the file, also advise them that Church Windows Payroll has what's called a pre-notify file. All right. Let me steer some focus. When I go to direct deposit in EFT up here at the top, right below that to the left, I've got a button here called pre-notify. Okay. That essentially, folks, that is a test run. It's a dry run. It's essentially the same exact file that you would use to upload or pay folks electronically at the bank, except there's no money. All the net pay amounts are zero. All right. But it mirrors an exact direct deposit or NACHA file and allows the bank to test and ensure that everything is being imported, or the file is being imported correctly. You want to make sure that all of this stuff is set up correctly before you actually need to begin paying folks, there. I've worked with folks over the years where they've basically set it up, they created the file, they sent it to the bank, without doing the pre-notify file. The bank rejected the file for whatever reason. Then they're calling us scrambling, going, how do I get my employees to be paid? Then we're having to look at, trying to write checks for them, and et cetera, and find ways to work around why the bank has rejected that. So the pre-notify file is vital to the process for the successful setup of your direct deposit. Before we dive into more of the setup, up here under direct deposit again in EFT at the top left, you also have this option called print auth form right here. Okay. This is a EFT authorization form that we would recommend that you have all of your employees and contractors complete. So, one, it includes, well, a couple things. It includes all of the information, the employer, ID, the name, depository name, basically bank name, address, city, state, routing number, and account number, and the employee's signature. Okay. It basically includes all of the information that you need to get the direct deposit set up for them, at least for one account. And it is also verification record that the employee or contractor did agree to be paid electronically in case there is ever a question about it that comes up later for whatever reason. Keep this for your records. Okay. And again, as I was pointing out, it only has information on it for one routing and account number right here. That'll become important here in a minute because Payroll does support the ability to be able to split direct deposit money over two different accounts, checking and a savings, checking and checking, savings and savings, and it's based on a percentage or an amount. And we'll see that here in a minute. Okay. So before beginning the process of setting it up, please be sure to print this form and distribute one to each one of your payees or contractors. Complete that and have them get that back to you. And so you have it on record and you have what you need to get the information entered. Okay. All right. So let's go into employees, contractors now. So here, I've been using direct deposit for some time now. I'm good with it. I'm familiar with it. Larry, I've been paying for quite some time. I go to the direct deposit tab. Here he is, got his account, his first account. He is not authorizing a second account, but I could. But what I'm really here to look at is my contractor here, Joe Greenthumb, our landscaper. He is a contractor, okay? It says contractor ID right there. See that? Right here, contractor ID number. Okay, that tells me he's a contractor, not an employee. Notice I have a tab here called direct deposit. And again, all I have to do is check the box, use direct deposit, And then the lower half of the window now becomes live. Okay, I've checked it. I've set it up here, folks. But that's what you have to do is you have to check the box here, right here, use direct deposit. Once you check that, then the tabs below become available. This is where I enter the bank account number and routing number, the type of an account that it is, checking or savings. Nothing too terribly complex about this. By default, the EFT detail record individual ID field is set to not required by your bank, which is the default. I strongly recommend leave that as not required. If that needs to be something different, then the pre-notify option when uploaded to the bank will reveal that, and they will let you know. Okay? But leave the defaults, and the bank will articulate to you what needs to be changed if there's something wrong. If Joe wanted me to have a second amount or an amount or a percent distributed to a second account, I would simply click on account 2, the tab. I would enter its account number, routing number, and type of an account. Again, EFT detail record being left as not required till the bank tells me differently. Then over here to the right, I would choose my allocation for account number 2, to as either a set amount or a percent of the net deposit to be deposited to the second account. Okay? Again, nothing terribly complex, but it is required in order for things to function the way that they should. When I've entered the appropriate information, at least for one account number and routing number, I will click Save. Okay? Once that information is then set up for my employees, again, notice here, contractors and employees have the same requirements on that direct deposit tab. There's nothing different about it. It's the same requirements. Account number, routing number, account type. Okay? All right. And that's what I point out on this. Basically, it's really important to point out that the functionality is exactly the same in terms of how it's set up. Okay? Then once I've got that set up, I'm going to go right up here to direct deposit EFT, and I'm going to click the pre-notify option. Okay? I'm going to set a date here that I've agreed to with the bank, whether that's tomorrow or Monday or whenever, today. They just have to know when they can get that or what the date is on the file. It has to be a date of today or later, right? Can't create an EFT file for a date prior to today. It has to be today or later date, okay? So we're going to say we're going to upload it to them tomorrow for tomorrow to import. So I go to Next. Here's all of my employees and my contractors. Now, this is an important distinction, folks. Contractors and employees for the pre-notify option can be included as part of a single file. However, when you're paying them electronically, you cannot. They have to be produced as separate files and created and saved separately and uploaded to the bank separately. Why that is, I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry. It's simply how our developers have chosen to design it. Maybe it has something to do with like tax documentation or tax forms, something like that. I don't know. But I'm just letting you know in advance that while this does allow me to see my contractor, Joe Greenthumb with C after his name, with my employees, I can uncheck my 2 employees if all I want to do is for Joe. Otherwise, it's going to include my pre-notify file for everybody. Okay? Then I go to Next, and here it's saying I'm including those in the file selection. I go to Next. Now I have to choose where I'm saving the file, and this is where things are very similar to the process of calculating the payroll with that, okay? I choose the location. Once I click Browse, I choose that location. I click OK, and then I click Save File. Tells me the file name with the date stamp on it has been saved. .dat has been saved. Okay, I click OK, Next, and Finish. No stub is being created here, folks, because no money is changing hands. This is between me and the bank. That's it. Employees know nothing about this. Okay? So now when I'm back at my desktop now here, right, in the middle, we can see we've got the file called EFT 250620_1. I then go on to my bank's website. I upload that file, that pre-notify file, And then I'm on hold for them to let me know, whether it's a day or 2 days or 3 days or what have you, whether that file was successful or not. Okay, it sends out all the information to each one of the employees' banks or contractors' banks that I've included with those and waits for a response. Okay, and then the bank calls and tells me or emails me and says, yay, the file was successful, it was great, it's all set up correctly, or no, it's not, at which point then they need to articulate to you exactly what's wrong with that file. Okay, Church Windows has no way of knowing what's wrong with it. Okay, it is just a test file. Net amounts are 0. Folks, if they tell you what's wrong, you go in here and you go, okay, well, what's wrong with the file? Well, they tell you, you go into EFT setup, maybe you go into the EFT over ACH overrides, you enter whatever they're saying they want to hear changed. Maybe they want to balance debit and credit an EFT file, balance debit and credit EFT file. Could be that simple, okay? But I make the required changes to the database. I click or to this setup. I click OK through that. Then I go back up to direct deposit EFT and pre-notify, and I send them another pre-notify file, okay? Waiting for the response. Oh, I'm going to create as many pre-notify files as I need or want until the bank comes back to me with thumbs up and says, yes, Josh, everything is correct and it's working as it should. All of the response from all of my people's banks were right. Everything's good. I'm now ready to pay my employees and my contractors electronically. Okay, the pre-notify file option, folks, I cannot stress this enough, is probably the most important part of working with and setting up the direct deposit for Church Windows Payroll. I don't care whether it's for contractors or employees or anyone else. Okay, it ensures everything is right. It's that simple. Okay. So now I'm ready. They've come back to me and said, I'm good. I'm ready to go. So now we're going to go back to calculate payroll. And this is true. I'm doing this for all of whether it's my employees or my contractors. I am doing this. I'm doing the same pay date, settlement date, pay period started and pay period ended date as I would for both of them. Okay. And then once I've entered those dates, I go to next. Now notice here, payee type. I have all checked, but if I go to specific, notice all I'm seeing are employees. If I now go to contractors, I only see Joe. So basically, I have to run my if I have employees that I'm paying electronically and then contractors, I have to do them in 2 separate runs, okay? 2 different files, all right? So let's go back and do it for contractors, for Joe. So now I've chosen him. He's my one sole contractor that I'm paying by a direct deposit. I go to next. Here I've got to enter a number of hours that he's worked for me, okay? So I enter those hours. I mean, if he's salaried or something, it would show up with his rate. Once I've got that entered, I go to next. So this window's mighty important here, folks, too, okay? So right here, when I want to post a payroll, yes, of course, I'm going to do that. But I'm really here to click Browse Payments. I want to make sure my net pay is right. Of course, he's a contractor. No taxes are being withheld. So his 8 hours times 75 is the $600 I'm paying him. This is just verifying the amount is right. Because once I send it to the bank and he's paid, I can't rescind that, right? So I've got to make sure that's right. Yep, the amount is correct. Do I want to print reports? These are some basically pre-posting or some posting reports. For the purposes of our webinar today, I'm not going to check that. But I'm definitely going to choose copy EFT file, and I'm going to check transfer to accounting. EFT selections will appear later in this wizard. Clicking next will post the payroll. Okay? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to next. So it's, yep, I am including Joe in my EFT file because I need to get that to the bank. So I'm going to leave that checked. Then when I click next to generate the file, it now opens up. Here is my file location where I'm saving the file. Okay. So then if I don't want to save it there, I want to save it someplace else. You know, maybe I want to put it into downloads or documents or something. Okay. And then I click OK. I have to click Save File. So it now creates another new file with a pay date with an amount. I probably would have been advised to delete that other one off my desktop, but either way, it doesn't, you know, the EFT pre-notify file is fine. No money changes hands, so we're fine. So the file's been saved into my documents, okay? Now I'm going to click Print Pay Stubs. So now I'm going to make sure there's plain paper in my printer. Yes, here's my pay date. I go to Next. Here I am. I'm printing a pay stub for Joe. I go to Next. Here I'm at my my regular payroll check printing screen. I'm not assigning check numbers. I got a check designer, but frankly, I don't care. I'm good with the default. I'm going to go right here to print EFT stubs. It opens up a stub. The thing about here, these that make this difference is this non-negotiable watermark on this. So I'm going to send that to my printer in the upper right-hand corner. Okay. I'd send that to my plain paper, grab them off the printer. Yep, that stub is good. I now close out. I must click Next. Folks, I cannot cancel out of this or it won't tell me that they've printed correctly. Next, mark as printed right here. Might go a minute or two long here today, folks. Mark as printed. Okay. Once I've checked the marked as printed box, I click Next and Finish. Now I'm back to my Calculate Payroll wizard. I'm going to click Next again. Now I'm at my Transfer to Accounting window. Looks like I didn't set up Joe with a checking account, so I'm going to choose that here. Click Transfer. It says, do I want to transfer payroll to accounting? Yes. It's now completed. I'm not going to print it. And then I click Finish. Okay. Now, when I'm ready to upload this to the bank, I'm going to open the portal or what have you. I'm going to browse to my Documents folder. And then right here at the top, there's my EFT 250625. I upload that file to them. Then, you know, on the 25th next week, when it warrants that being paid, yeah, at midnight, whenever the bank does that, he'll get paid. I can now send him or email him his pay stub if I wish. You know, it's my choice, but that's it. Okay. So the process is now complete. We've posted the payroll. We've saved the file. We've uploaded it to the bank. We've printed the stub and we've transferred it into accounting. Okay. I know it's kind of a quick whirlwind tour through the direct deposit feature, folks, but like I said, I could now go back into Calculate Payroll and now process a pay for my regular employees if I wish, okay? But it's my choice, but I have to do them separately. All right, so it is 12 o'clock. We've gone to the full 30 minutes here, folks. That is where we are going to leave our topic for today.